Thanks for joining us for another special edition of the Innovate That podcast from the Oklahoma Center for the Advancement of Science and Technology. And we're once again coming to you from the Global Entrepreneurship Congress in Indianapolis, Indiana. And today I am joined by Wade Dunn with Gradient and Kristen Garcia with The Verge in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
One of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is the deep history of science and innovation and startups within the state of Oklahoma. And I mean, I can say one of the things when we talk about and we look at Oklahoma's deep aviation, you had Wiley Post who invented the first pressurized flight suit. You have the Next Red radar that was invented down at the University of Oklahoma. And then we have some of the more, what I deem the funnier inventions of anybody who unfortunately has had to pay parking in a city. They have Oklahoma to thank for the invention of the parking meter. And then on the flip side of that, you talk about real world kind of challenges that people don't even understand and innovations that are needed. And some people don't realize that the first shopping cart was invented in Oklahoma. So I think back, I'm like, what did you do? Did you just like carry everything through the grocery store until somebody's like, hey, that's a problem. This is inconvenient. We need to solve it. And so when we look at Oklahoma's history, it is vast and robust. And each of you set into communities that have really extensive history. So Wade, what role does Gradient play in the history of Tulsa? And what does that look like and mean for your community?
So I'll tell you, Gradient, we moved into this building, and everybody may not know this, but we moved into this building first part of the year. It's a 112,000 square foot building. Now, this building is over 100 years old. And in this space, it was three immigrant brothers who started a company that grew into this national company. It's OCAST.co. Yes, OCAST.co company. So if you ever look at Oklahoma's history, Oklahoma has a really strong history when it comes to entrepreneurship and just entrepreneurs being successful. I'm also tagged this, though. People don't know this. Do you know that, the .com, right, emails, the creator of that DNS system came out of Oklahoma. Yep, that was that. If it wasn't for this person, we wouldn't have emails, we wouldn't have .coms. But that's Oklahoma's minds.
It's just like the first personal computer was invented by an Oklahoman.
Yeah. See, and so the thing is that Oklahoma's always been leading the conversation. We just didn't know it, right? I think the yield sign that came from
yield sign was from Oklahoma too.
So many things that we can talk about, but the history is strong. So at Gradient, what we do is we kind of build on that legacy. We have in this space we work out of, it's a co-work space also. We have a lot of programs that are literally helping using the history, using the story of those who came before us to show that, hey, Oklahoma has always had the resources for us to be successful. And Gradient, we kind of bring all those things together in one space. So when an entrepreneur comes to our front door with an idea, we can show them the history. Listen, we tell them the story when they do the tour. This building is over 100 years old, and this is where it started for somebody else, and this is where it's going to start for you. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're excited to be in a new location in Oklahoma City. We're right across from the Oklahoma City Bombing Memorial. It just celebrated its 30th anniversary since 1995. And though a dark part of our history, I think a lot that came out of that experience was there was the usual Oklahoma City Arts Festival going on during the time of the bombing. And so when the bombing occurred, all of those food vendors fed the response teams that helped. So when we really think of, the community coming together, the aspect of small and medium-sized businesses coming through for the future of the city, that is a huge part of what we also tell our community members is we have to recognize the past. We have to recognize the things that aren't the exciting part of why we exist, but at the same time, look what came out of it. And so we have both, I tell people we'll help people from a taco truck to a tech startup. We want everyone to have this opportunity to add back into the Oklahoma City ecosystem. And then, I love the fact that even we utilize the turnpike that we have up and down the state so that we can pass resources and founders back through that corridor, because I think that goes into the community building that exists for our state. There's a lot of times we talk about, where we've been, but I think the where we're going is so exciting because of the fact that people are utilizing the ecosystem, the resources, specifically the people, that's just so important. And you can't necessarily find that in other large cities. I know we're not originally from Oklahoma. And so not that my larger cities that I've been in are any better or worse. They probably have the ability to access tons of people with lots of capital. But at the same time, to get into those rooms, to be invited is not something that happens for everyone. So I think between The Verge and Gradient, we're really working to make sure people feel like they're invited to the table as well. And if you're not, like, we also want to encourage you build the table. It doesn't just matter. Yeah.
We'll give you the tools.
And I think it's also important because you do both represent the two urban arenas in Oklahoma, is also talking about the vast history that exists within our rural communities within Oklahoma. I mean, I know some of the conversations that we've had externally and internally as a state is OCAST is the State Science and Technology Organization. And when folks think of that, you immediately think those high growth, scalable businesses. Everybody wants to be the next Facebook and Paycom and Meta or Meta. They're literally right outside the room right here today. I should have said Meta. They want to be those next big ones. But when you look at what's possible in Oklahoma, I mean, the story of a startup can actually start as a mom and pop traditional one. If you look at Sonic, that was founded in Oklahoma in a small community. You look at the history of Quick Trip or Love's. I mean, they were literally single station gas stations. With gas stations, yeah.
And now going back to the carrying the groceries.
And now I don't think you can drive to hardly any state and not see one of them. And those are Oklahoma originals. So this is something that happens everywhere across the state.
Well, and even of the growing upon that, I know recently we've all gotten to know Stride Bank a lot more and partnerships that we're working with them on. They're based out of Enid. And when Chime was getting started, they said, we need some financial entities to take on the aspect of creating these accounts, getting this money moving forward. And so Stride Bank out of Enid, Oklahoma, if you look at the Chime Bank commercials, you're going to see there's two banks there, and Stride's one of those. And their team just has the ability for them to be agile, be in a small local bank in Oklahoma and say, this is what we want to try to do. I think that's also a really cool part of the people in Oklahoma, because it may be that they're brand new, like a Sonic or Love's, or they've existed and now they can pivot into a global market.
Yeah.
And I love being in the role kind of representing all 77 counties within Oklahoma, is that's where we've had the ability to go look at all of the partners and the success and the expertise that exists in the state of Oklahoma. And that's where, several years ago within the State Science and Innovation Strategic Plan, we outlined 3 core areas that Oklahoma is very unique in and has the opportunity to have tremendous success. And that's where you see, and that's why the first one you see is aviation, advanced air mobility, and defense technologies. And then you look at anything life science and biotechnology, because you have clusters of expertise and those success stories of successful founders that have laid strong foundations. And then, of course, the one that everybody knows Oklahoma for outside of the Thunder or the Twisters is oil and gas. And it's that recognizing that not only did Oklahomans have that huge pioneering spirit to come speculate and say, we're going to literally drill a hole in the ground to see if there's anything underneath it, hit literal liquid gold, created a state and a massive industry, but also have now been kind of the leaders of making sure other forms of energy have been accessible within the state to lead to new innovations. So what are you all seeing in regards to the success or the opportunities within those pillars in your communities?
You looked at me, I look at each other.
I can't let you off easy tonight.
Yeah, so
What's so polite that we're
we were like, you first. No, I think for innovation, especially from the energy side, Tulsa, Oklahoma, we have really a couple big energy companies that are in Oklahoma. And we also have sitting in our space at Gradient, one of the accelerators that focus on helping the energy sector fix problems, right? We have an accelerator that is actually going out, finding small businesses. Well, first, what they do is they go find the problem. They talk to the energy companies to find out, hey, what are the problems you all are having they're trying to solve? Then they go out and they put a mass call out to everyone around the country that has a company in energy and say, hey, this is the problem we're trying to solve. And they bring them to Tulsa. And then in Tulsa, they work on the solution with the company to actually figure out how they can fix it. And at the end, the hope is the company sees the value and actually provide the funds to do it. So when it comes to like innovation in this space, especially if you are anyone, I'm just going to make this appeal to whoever's watching this. If you are anyone from around the world that you're trying to get your business started in the energy space specifically, Oklahoma is the place to be. This is the only place I know, like what Kristen said earlier, because of community, where you can have an idea and literally have a coffee meeting with probably the CEO, the person that can make the decision, without going through a whole bunch of gatekeepers, right? And because of that, a lot of companies have been very successful in Oklahoma with having an idea, having a product, and being able to tell the person that can make the decision about their product to now scale. So when it comes to like innovation and energy, this is one small story of many I can tell you. I'm sure Kristen has some too.
Yeah, one of the comments that was made this week, if I think of like some takeaways, was that entrepreneurs are becoming the new diplomats.
Yes.
That when we think about this global economy that we could all be a part of, like it's those, conversations. It's that invite from somebody from another country to come and start something in Oklahoma and to see what those opportunities look like. And so one of the business that came into my mind in those verticals was Syncelytics. Syncelytics is working on, originally it was just utilizing data to help analyze, pipelines and make sure that we don't have oil spills and things in the future. Now with AI, they've been able to really rapidly grow at a faster pace. They pretty much are going between Oklahoma and Houston. I mean, those are like the main areas where they're talking to customers, and just signed their first customer the other day. And Blake is a part of the incubator system. He has a lot of talent in Atlanta too. But I think to your point, it's like, here's that ecosystem, the support. People want to see you be successful in these verticals. We have the resources, we have the capability. So I think what could be really exciting from the other things I've learned this week are also just when we look at all of the access that we love to talk about, it'd be nice as an ecosystem to say, well, where are all those pockets, and where do we want to say, this is actually where we could be something in here. This is where we could be something here, whether that's for rural communities that they realize, we do actually have a whole network of these individuals. Let's get people to move here because they could utilize it as a customer. And so it's going to be interesting to take a lot of this back to the state and see how we can continue working on.
Well, and I think that's been what's really been great about this conference, is it being a Global Entrepreneurship Congress, is talking to communities that are ahead of us on the journey, talking to communities that are behind us on a journey, but recognizing that a lot of the challenges do not matter whether you are literally in Suriname or India or in Enid, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That literally access to capital, access to great mentors, access to subject matter expertise, those things matter. And then the one thing that this conference has once again reinforced, and it's the world that the three of us live in, is how significant the impact of entrepreneurship is on our communities. Yeah. And so recognizing our past, looking at our future, and looking at where we are, especially in view of the global economy, is something that this conference I've walked away with really embedded even more so in me.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the wrap up of the second edition of our special Innovate That podcast from the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. We thank you for joining us.